A longtime Southern Kentucky school employee passes away after an accident in a school parking lot.
The governor has used his veto power on 7 bills. We're taking an in-depth look at what this means for you coming up.
Getting cloudy skies out there. We will see at least a chance of rain as we slide off into the rest of the afternoon. I'll show you where I see the rain popping up coming up in just a few minutes.
This is WKYT News at noon.
Good afternoon and welcome to WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Barbara Bailey. We have a sad update to pass along this midday. A crossing guard who was hit by a car outside a Southern Kentucky school has died.
It happened yesterday in the parking lot of Southwestern High School in Somerset. State police say 69-year-old Doyle Patterson was flown to the University of Tennessee Hospital in Knoxville, but he later died. WKYT's Phil Pendleton is in Pulaski County now with more on what we're learning about the victim and the circumstances, and it is our top story at noon. Phil?
69-year-old Doyle Patterson had worked here at Southwestern High School since the school opened in the early 1990s, so you can imagine the grief and the loss being felt and experienced here today. Now, state police say Patterson was standing on an access road preparing to direct traffic when school was dismissed about 3:05 yesterday. He was hit by a truck driven by 62-year-old Wendell R. Phelps. Police say at this point they believe this was simply a tragic accident. Patterson was well known and well liked by many at the high school.
Anytime you lose a member of your school community, it's a loss that's felt by many. It's a very tragic, horrific accident, and our love and support go out along with our prayers to the family. We've had grief counselors here since early this morning to support our staff and our students.
Police say at this point they do not suspect any alcohol or drugs played a role in the accident. They were assisted by the Somerset Fire Department, the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, and Pulaski County EMS. In Pulaski County, Phil Pendleton, WKYT.
Phil, thank you. And Patterson passed away at the University of Tennessee Hospital just after midnight this morning.
A Central Kentucky mother and her 2 disabled children who disappeared earlier this week have been found safe. Sandra Webster and her adult children, Robert and Patricia Janicki, had last been seen in the Berea area Monday night. WKYT's Hillary Thornton is in Madison County now with more on where police were able to locate them.
Missing family members say they got word this morning of a possible sighting. Then just about an hour ago, sheriff's deputies here in Madison County confirming the family was located safely in McCreary County.
It's been awful. It's been awful.
Carol Pruitt says she last talked to her 76-year-old sister, Sandra Webster, Monday evening. She then remembers calling her as usual late Tuesday morning to see if she needed to run any errands. Pruitt says her sister, who cares for her 2 special needs children, often gets turned around and confused just in town. So the only place she goes on her own is the Richmond Meijer. After a few hours with their van gone and no sign of the 3 with critical medication, her cell phone and 2 dogs left behind, Pruitt called the sheriff's office, who then put out a golden alert.
This morning was my fall apart time. and then I got the call on the sightings that sound really, really promising.
A sighting by a school bus driver on US 27 in Somerset, and then at a Hardee's in that same area, leading to a police officer finding the family along US 27 in McCreary County.
So when they get here, there'll be a big reunion.
Certainly the ending everyone was hoping for. Webster was taken to a local hospital to be checked out. Officers are waiting with the other 2 until family members can get there to pick them up. In Madison County, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
Thank you, Hillary. And Pruitt says once her sister gets home, they'll reevaluate whether her sister will still be able to drive. A Kentucky sheriff is bringing a whole new meaning to bring your child to work. Our investigations team has uncovered official jail documents signed by the Clinton County Sheriff's 10-year-old son. The sheriff admitted to WKYT's Miranda Combs that he took his son on warrant arrest and then let his son sign official documents at the jail.
Is this your son?
Yes, it is.
And so you had him dress up like he is a sheriff's deputy?
Ma'am, that's kids' clothes. There's nothing real on his person.
Now tonight on WKYT News at 6, our Miranda Combs investigates whether this Kentucky sheriff went too far when taking his son to work.
Well, rounds of showers and storms are still rolling through the bluegrass this midday, putting down some heavy amounts of water and rain out there. There is a break in the forecast. It'll last a day or so. WKYT meteorologist Micah Harris is live now in our First Alert Weather Center with the details. Micah?
Yeah, really one area I want you to watch out for, because now we're starting to see some of those clouds build in, is back toward Louisville across I-65. That's going to get a little bit closer to us here in the next couple of hours, and once it does, you'll see those clouds even building even more, and that will spark off some of those showers and a couple of rumbles of thunder. But outside right now, it's actually pretty dry and it looks pretty good. Temperatures are there in the lower 70s, mixture of sun and clouds. Pretty nice look and feel right now. I would say in about 2 hours, you'll start to see a few storms pop up right along, at least around that I-75 corridor, and then it pushes over toward the east. So the eastern areas will have the best chance of rain, but it's still a 40% chance. It's not as great as what we have been the past couple of days. The rain will continue to pour down, though, as we travel off towards your weekend. We'll get a break. We'll get one day with a break, and I'll show you that, explain to you when you can expect the rain to move back in coming up.
We'll take what we can get. Thank you very much, Micah. Well, weeks after the end of the state legislative session, Governor Matt Bevin has released a final version of the budget bill. The governor took his time going over the bill line by line and has now vetoed more than 24 items. WKYT's Mark Barber is in Frankfort with reaction to the things that were cut and those that survived. Mark?
There were quite a few changes to quite a few bills, so House Democrats say they are still reviewing the governor's vetoes, trying to figure out what programs and funding survived and what was cut. In all, the governor struck down 3 bills and vetoed parts of 4 others. In the highly contentious state budget bill, Governor Matt Bevin used his veto power to axe dozens of items. Here are some of the main changes from yesterday's vetoes. Bevin delayed giving free tuition to students enrolling in community colleges this year, and he also cut funding that would have allowed more children in poverty to qualify for preschool. Bevin's vetoes include funding for several preventative health measures, like screenings for colon cancer and breast cancer. The governor says he also shot down a new driver's license bill because there was a tremendous amount of opposition to it. The bill would have required licenses to be updated to meet federal security standards. Bevin's vetoes are drawing criticism from the Speaker of the House. In a statement, Greg Stumbo said, "No forward-thinking governor would have acted in this way. It's a sad and unfortunate day for all of Kentucky." Bevin disagrees. He says these vetoes were needed because the state needs to save money. While some lawmakers may be unhappy with his decisions, they are unable to override any of his vetoes because they waited until the last day of the legislative session to approve the budget. In Frankfort, Mark Barber, WKYT.
Mark, thank you. And Governor Bevin says he is pleased with the budget and says it is more conservative and fiscally responsible than anyone thought was possible. Governor Bevin has also revamped the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission with 11 new members. They include Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day and the son of former Governor Brereton Jones. Among former members who were removed before their terms expired was Tom Conway, the father of Jack Conway, who lost to Bevin in last year's gubernatorial election. The spring meet at Keeneland ends tomorrow, but there is another premier horse event that's going on for fans to be excited about this very weekend.
The Rolex 3-day event, which is actually 4 days, is underway at the Kentucky Horse Park and runs through Sunday. The U.S. Equestrian Eventing Team will take on some of the best international competitors. Now, some of the riders hope to find their way to the Summer Olympics in Rio. The event will also feature a concert with country music singer Hunter Hayes.
Well, more twists and turns in the race for the White House as Republican Ted Cruz reveals his vice presidential pick and Democrat Bernie Sanders scales down his campaign. We'll take you out on the campaign trail for the latest coming up on Kentucky's #1 Midday News.
Also ahead, in the aftermath of Prince's untimely death a week ago, investigators are now releasing more information about what may have led to his passing. We'll have the latest next on WKYT.
Northside RVs is having an RV sale and barbecue this Saturday. See all the great deals and new exciting floor plans. Plus, enjoy a free old-fashioned barbecue. New travel trailers from $99.99. New motorhomes from $69.99. Front living room fifth wheels, outside kitchens, fireplace, big TVs. We have something for everybody. Plus, over 100 used RVs on sale. Don't miss the fun and great deals. Northside RVs at the corner of New Circle Road and North Broadway in Lexington. Come hungry. See you there.
Insurance companies demand prompt and full payment of your premiums. Shouldn't you receive prompt and full payment of your claims? When you don't, you know who to call. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
From simple to exquisite, Sukasa has just the right granite for every style and purpose. Home with a 1999 granite kitchen and Lexington's largest selection of stone under one roof. Let Sukasa bring your dream home.
Every house has electricity. Shouldn't every house have an electrician?
Used cars are in short supply, so I need your trade. Right now at the all-new Big M Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, get up to $5,000 over Kelley Blue Book fair market value for any trade. During the spring clearance event, new 2015 Jeep Renegade Sports are just $189 a month. New 2016 Ram Bighorn Crew Cab 4-wheel drives are only $199 a month. And if you have a job and a valid driver's license, we want to approve you. Only at the all-new Big M Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Hey, now would be a great time to give us a call here at America's Window about new windows for your home. You know, our windows are created from the finest quality of materials on the market, bar none. We're talking about additional coatings of low E to help keep your home warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. We're going to give your home an energy upgrade. Why don't you pick up the phone and call us here in Lexington right now, anywhere in the sound of my voice, at 1-800-861-4153. And now, during our Off to the Races sale, save up to 20% on new windows. Ask about zero down, zero interest options for 12 months. Act now and receive a $500 discount certificate good towards your next purchase, just like cash. Savings on new siding, a bath system, e-shield, or gutters. Call now at 1-800-861-4153 or come by and see us at 1190 East New Circle Road right here in town during our Off to the Races sale.
Welcome back to WKYT News at noon. Republican Donald Trump is campaigning in California today, the biggest prize of the presidential nominating contest.
While his rival Ted Cruz is barnstorming across Indiana with his new running mate. All of this, of course, ahead of Tuesday's pivotal primary. Cruz named Carly Fiorina as his running mate in a bid to try to stop Trump's momentum. Democrat Bernie Sanders is also shifting his focus to California's primary on June 7th. He has cut hundreds of jobs from his campaign. It's a final attempt to keep things lean in the final 6 weeks before voters head to the polls in the Golden State. We'll have more from the candidates coming up in a full report here in a few minutes on WKYT News at 12:30. Vice President Joe Biden will push for international cooperation in the fight against cancer. That's in a speech at the Vatican set for tomorrow. Biden will be speaking to doctors, patients, and researchers at an event that is hosted by the Pontifical Council for Culture and the STEM for Life Foundation. Biden's office says the vice president will also visit with Pope Francis during the trip. Authorities are now saying that prescription drugs are a focus of the investigation into Prince's untimely death this time last week.
Police say painkillers were found in the late singer's possession at his Paisley Park home. Jamie Yukas has the latest.
Sources tell CBS News the Carver County Sheriff's Office in Minnesota contacted the Drug Enforcement Administration about possibly assisting in the investigation if the prescription pills found at Prince's home are related to his death. The Sheriff's Office says no active work is being done with agents at this time, but once toxicology work is completed, federal agents will look to uncover specific information. What painkillers he was taking, where the drugs came from, and if they were prescribed by a physician. Entertainment Tonight reports that Prince had an ongoing problem with painkillers.
He had hip replacement surgery in 2010, and people close to Prince tell me he struggled with painkillers due to his hip and ankle issues.
Less than a week before Prince's death, his private jet made an emergency landing in Moline, Illinois, hours after his last performance in Atlanta, Georgia.
What's the nature of the emergency? What's the nature of the
An unresponsive passenger.
At the time, his publicist said he was suffering from the flu. But audio from the control tower released this week indicates the situation may have been more dire. A bodyguard reportedly carried him off the plane to an ambulance.
Jamie Yukas, CBS News, New York.
Now, Prince's sister, Tyka Nelson, filed paperwork in court saying her brother did not have a known will. Yesterday, the court appointed a special administrator to his estate. He was worth an estimated $300 million, and that's expected to grow even larger, with sales of his music exploding since his death. Since Prince was not married and had no children, his sister and 5 half-siblings are next in line, potentially to inherit millions from his estate.
A woman was sleeping overnight when she heard a loud noise, but she learned it wasn't thunder that had caused this damage to her home. We'll tell you what had happened.
Clouds are starting to pop up back towards 65. That means here comes some showers. Another couple of rumbles of thunder. We're going to go through that forecast coming up next.
With more selection and savings, you can stop and smell more roses at Meijer.
Paul, remember how Mommy used to wait a long time on hold with Time Warner Cable? Now, they call Mommy back when it's convenient for her. What did you just learn, Paul?
If Time Warner Cable can change, then so can I.
Now eat your vegetables.
Changing for good. Time Warner Cable.
Hitting someone at 35 miles per hour is like throwing them off a 4-story building. A little extra speed is a lot more deadly. Slow down, Lexington.
Now, during our Off to the Races sale, call us here at America's Window for high-performance Energy Star approved windows that will give your home an energy upgrade. And take advantage of our Off to the Races sale. Save up to 20% on new windows. Ask about zero down and zero interest options for 12 months. Act now and receive a $500 discount certificate good towards your next purchase. Pick up the phone and call during our Off to the Races sale.
Can you help me figure out what to plant in my front yard to help our curb appeal?
Sorry, I just started working here last week, so I'm not sure. Hey, can you help her find some plants?
Sorry, kid. I work in the plumbing department.
Can you help me figure out what to plant to help our curb appeal?
Piece of cake. First, you need a few dwarf boxwoods over there. Supplement those with a crate. Take your curb appeal to the next level. At King's Gardens, we share your passion for plants.
Sawyer, you're in.
Me?
Yeah, playing shortstop. Hey, ball.
With more selection and savings, you get more brushes with glory at Meijer.
Get WKYT News and Weather Update on Wild 1039. Now, your zone-by-zone forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
Lower 70s and dry at this very moment. The next hour or so is when you can get out and knock out any plans, knock out some of those errands, going to the grocery store, getting ready to get out and go pick the kids up here in the next couple of hours from school. That's the time to do it, because let me tell you, once you get that 2, 3, 4 p.m. time frame, that's when we start to see some of these temperatures take a dive, because rain's going to be over some of those airport readings. So yeah, here comes some rain once again for today. But remember, like I was talking about earlier today, this is not widespread like we've seen the past couple of days. It's just not there. However, you're still at about a 40% chance, so it's still a pretty decent shot at that. Nothing going on now, but the way you see where things are building, let me throw satellite on here. Now here are the clouds, right? We have a big amount of sunshine right in the western areas, and what's going to happen, these clouds will continue to move east. They'll continue to build, grow, and grow and grow until they can't hold any more water anymore, and then that's where you get those showers and thunderstorms popping up. They'll pop up right in here in our western zones in just the next couple of hours and move eastbound. So I would say the best chance to actually see a few rumbles of thunder is really from Frankfurt, go down really 127, go down those corridors and then make your way eastbound. That's your best chance to see a passing shower or a thunderstorm. But remember, no widespread severe weather. If we do see a severe cell, I would say the best chance for a stray cell, far eastern Kentucky. That's your best bet. Live sky camera. Good shot. It looks pretty good. Mixture of sun and clouds. Let me take you hour by hour. Watch what happens, okay? So this is what I'm talking about. Watch it pop up. Boom. There you go. And now it's over that 75 corridor. It makes its way eastbound. There's 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Watch 5 and 6 p.m. Look what's happening. It's coming in early, right? So watch as we go off into the night. Why am I putting a happy face emoji on the screen at 10 p.m. at night? The reason being, exactly, everybody's finally snoring over there. We can finally get some sleep around here, man. The past couple of nights have not been fun to go through. Dogs are going crazy, you're going crazy. Finally get some sleep, sound sleep. And throughout the night where it's finally quiet, those storms have moved on out. You won't get any storms tonight, so you can fall asleep knowing that no storms will be moving by overnight. Tomorrow morning, we're good to go. Tomorrow afternoon looks fantastic. We're talking temperatures low to mid 70s with a mixture of sun and clouds. Let's talk about your 7-day forecast, because we do get a break tomorrow. That's a good looking sign right there. And a lot of things going on with events. You got the Kentucky Horse Park with the Rolex event, also Keeneland going on out at Keeneland. Many of these ball games being rescheduled. You just have so many things going on for tomorrow. That's the day to do it, because guys, Saturday and Sunday, scattered showers and thunderstorms will move right back in. But the snoring, I heard it over here. We're ready to get some sleep.
It was Bill.
Well, Bill's the only one that snores. Exactly. That was a good one.
That was so dainty. I love it.
Oh, well, you know, we need a little bit of that right now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Micah. We're coming right back. UK women's coach Matthew Mitchell talks about his sense of urgency.
And this looks to be a big night for a former colonel. Dave Baker's next with sports.
He's making his way to the stage, and let's check stocks at midday. All the major market indicate, well, the Dow's down. NASDAQ and S&P 500 up a little.
Tonight, with only 3 big bangs left, you're invited to an evening of fine wine.
I do enjoy an aged Pinot Noir. That would pair nicely with your fried nuggets of chicken.
And toy trains.
When I was 5, I ingested a locomotive. I spent the next 3 days saying, I think I can pass it. I think I can pass it. I think I can pass it.
Then want to impress your dad?
The Mets locker room.
Try hitting the big leagues.
They're right in the ball.
A new Odd Couple right after a new Big Bang Theory. CBS tonight.
For the best selection of reclining furniture, come to Furniture World Superstore. From sofas and love seats to leather sectionals, massage chairs, and more. Whether you want to recline, lift, or swivel, you'll find furniture that moves you. Plus, 2 years interest-free at Furniture World Superstore.
Get ready for spring and save big. Kevin's Carpets has a huge selection of hardwood, laminate, tile, carpet, and more. We have any flooring you need at a price you can afford. Kevin's Carpets now serving you in 2 locations, Lexington and Georgetown. Why, you'd have to be crazy to buy flooring anyplace else.
If you're taking multiple medications, does your mouth often feel dry? A dry mouth can be a side effect of many medications, but it can also lead to tooth decay and bad breath. That's why there's Biotene. Available as an oral rinse, toothpaste, spray, or gel, Biotene can provide soothing relief, and it helps keep your mouth healthy, too. Remember, while your medication is doing you good, a dry mouth isn't. Biotene, for people who suffer from a dry mouth.
Now, during our Off to the Races sale, call us here at America's Window for high-performance Energy Star approved windows that will give your home an energy upgrade. And take advantage of our Off to the Races sale. Save up to 20% on new windows. Ask about 0 down and 0 interest options for 12 months. Act now and receive a $500 discount certificate good towards your next purchase. Pick up the phone and call during our Off to the Races sale.
Clients come into the office. The government has said, no, I don't believe you. You're not disabled.
The major problem with Social Security disability is that most people who sign up are denied at the initial level. If your claim's denied, don't give up. Call us immediately. We'll appeal your case.
We can do an effective job of representing you that will get you the benefits that you deserve.
Call Morgan, Collins, and Yeast, 1-800-55-WILDCAT.
Bluegrass Medical Aesthetics wants to help you on the path to wellness and healthy youthful aging. Hormone replacement, medically supervised weight loss, Botox, Kybella, and more. Located in Georgetown next to Qdoba. Visit us at bmaky.com.
Thousands of combinations, hundreds of styles, endless choices. At Furniture World Superstore, you can get custom furniture from traditional to trendy fabrics or luxurious leather in 2 weeks. Your furniture, your way, delivered in 2 weeks, plus 2 years interest-free at Furniture World Superstore.
Have something that needs investigating? Email us or call the WKYT Investigates tip line.
The NFL's draft gets underway in prime time tonight, and at least for Central Kentucky, the attention will be focused on EKU, where it's setting up to be a big evening for the Colonel's Noah Spence. The defensive end is projected to go anywhere from the first to third rounds, and a story surfacing yesterday said that Spence, who was banned by the Big Ten in 2014 for failing drug tests while he was at Ohio State, has sent, listen to this now, sent all 32 NFL teams his past 20 drug tests. Now, that's a guy that's committed to showing people he's doing things the right way. 5 given by EKU during the season last year, and 15 more given by an independent company from January until this week. Spence hoping to convince teams that he's turned his life around. That is putting your money where your mouth is. Reaction still coming in from all corners after Matthew Mitchell's news conference yesterday, where he addressed what he described as the, quote, turmoil within his UK women's program. Mitchell talked at length about the support he's gotten from the players and parents of those who are staying, but they aren't the only ones. The coach said athletics director Mitch Barnhart has also been there, but at the same time, let it be known there's an urgency to get this right.
There's a tremendous urgency for that Mitch has and that I have, that I share with Mitch. But I just appreciate the confidence that he has placed in me, and he's always been very supportive because we are connected with common values, and we have the same beliefs, and we value the same things, and so we have a very special connection in that way. And he has been very supportive, but very constructively critical too, and that's what I need as well during this time when I need to make improvements.
And how about an in-state softball showdown between Kentucky and Louisville last night? Pick it up in the 7th. Cats down 1-0. Abby Cheek hits one to short, and it's too out to handle. The tying run scores from second. And then how about Brooklyn Hines with 2 outs? And Hines, who's been red hot, delivers the base hit back up the middle. Nikki Sagerman scores the go-ahead run. Kelsey Nunley put the side down in the bottom of the 7th. Kentucky gets a big non-conference win as they went on the road in Louisville by a count of 2-1. Tonight on the Big Blue Insider with Dick Gabriel, Jen Smith of the Lexington Herald Leader. She'll be talking UK football, and Matthew Mitchell, and former Wildcat linebacker Wesley Woodyard, along with John Asher of Churchill Downs, looking ahead at Derby 142 that's right around the corner. That's at 6 on 630 WLAP. Guys, that's a look at sports on your Thursday.
It'll be Oaks Day a week from tomorrow. Thank you, Buzz. And we hope you keep it here. There's a lot more coming up in the next half hour of WKYT News at noon.
The search is on for an escaped inmate in southern Kentucky.
I'm Michelle Chamberlain. Coming up at 12:30, a restaurant robbed, an employee pistol whipped, and a Nicholasville resident said she's not shocked. I'll have that story coming up.
Tomorrow night's Mega Millions jackpot is $118 million, and Saturday night's Powerball jackpot is $314 million.